So the fourth chapter of Nedarim is all about people who promise not to benefit from one another and the kind of difficulties that you get into. And the fifth chapter, which we're going to begin today, really picks up this theme. And we've got joint owners, people who own a courtyard. Now, one of the things we need to understand in the time of the Mishnah is that people's houses did not give onto the street, and certainly not onto their own front yard. Typically, you would have a house giving onto a shared courtyard, and the courtyard gives onto the street. So you cannot get access to your house without going through the courtyard. Now, if the courtyard was large, it could be divided. What is large? Well, typically the halakhic definition of space is always going to be 4 amot square. You know, a person inhabits the 4 amot around him. The Holy One inhabits the 4 amot of halakha. The 4 amot, if you like, symbolize personal space. And if there is enough space in this shared courtyard for each house to have 4 amot and in front of their door and another 4 in the courtyard, then effectively you could say 4 entrance space and 4 courtyard space. Then, okay, we can divide the courtyard. But many courtyards were not big enough for that. And the halakha is that a courtyard smaller than that can't be divided. It's a shared courtyard. So what do we do if people swear not to benefit from each other when they own the courtyard? Because we've said Drisat HaRegel, treading with the foot, is part of benefit. Access is a benefit. And so the Mishnah begins, Hashutafin shenadru hanaya ze mize. So we got joint owners who are sworn not to benefit from one another. They both sworn in this case. Asurin likanes lechatzer. They can't enter the courtyard. So neither of them can go in. And, you know, we've said before that rabbis don't like vows, that these kind of vows get into terrible situations. And here we can see a terrible situation. Now, Rabbi Eliezer is going to rule a different way. And by the way, the halakha does go according to Rabbi Eliezer. So with a sense of relief, we can read Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer. Ze nichnas letoch shelo, v'ze nichnas letoch shelo. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, look, this one enters his own and this one enters his own. So somehow when they're standing in their part of the courtyard, they can take the halachic view that they are in their bit and not in the other bit, i.e. they can choose which bit they stand in. They can, even though the courtyard is shared, they can say, look, the bit they're standing in is theirs, and the other bit that they're not getting benefit from, that's his. So they can both enter their own part of the courtyard. Ze nichnas letoch shelo, v'ze nichnas letoch shelo. Okay. But what if they really do need to share? The Mishnah continues, Shnehem asurin, mila amid, rechaim, v'tanur, mila gadel, tarm the golem. So they can't, the kind of shared activities that you perform in a courtyard, so setting up a millstone or an oven or raising chickens, these require permission. These can't be carried out unless you can't put an oven in your shared courtyard unless the other one permits. And of course, permission is a benefit. Permission has to be a benefit. And we can't do these things without permission. So effectively, they're forbidden. They are, both sides are forbidden from doing these kind of permission necessary activities, like putting in a millstone or an oven or raising chickens in the courtyard. Now, what if only one of them was sworn? So only one of them was sworn not to benefit from the other. Lo yikanes lechatzer. He can't go in the courtyard at all. he can't go in the courtyard at all. And the rabbis, well, let's see what view the rabbis have. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is going to take the same view. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Yachol hu lomar lo, b'toch sheli ani nichnas, ve'eni nichnas b'toch shelach. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, look, I can logically divide up this space. I can say I'm entering into my own, I'm not entering into yours. In other words, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov would let him come into the courtyard. But the Mishnah rules, Kofin et hanoder shimkor et chelko. They force the one who vowed to sell his share. There seems to be some anxiety that he's going to step into the other person's domain. And he's therefore going to break his vow. So they force the one who actually made the vow they force the one who made the vow to step to sell his share. They clearly were not going to force the other one to sell his share, because, gosh, if by making a vow you could force the other guy to sell his share, well, that will be a way of picking up property at cheap prices. But the one who vowed sells his share. Now, what if rather than two partners, we just had someone coming in off the street? So haya echad min hashuk mudar. Someone from the street was sworn. Me'echad mehem hanaya. Was sworn not to benefit from one of them. So this guy from the street, he's sworn not to benefit from one of the partners in this courtyard. Lo yikanes le chatzer. He cannot go into the courtyard at all. Here, the sages are really worried that he can't work out which side of the courtyard he's going into. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is going to make the same ruling, however. Yachol hu lomar lo. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, look, he can say to him, L'toch shel chaveri ani nichnas ve'eni nichnas l'toch shelach. I'm going to go into the space that belongs to my friend, i.e. the one who I'm not sworn not to benefit from, but I'm not going to go into your space. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is actually going to let him carry on visiting the shared courtyard.